Hi guys, it's Amber LaBarbera, and the topic of conversation I selected today is the Duomo, formerly known as the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. I love this building. I had the chance to see it in person when my best friend and I took a trip to Italy. Here are some pictures I took while we were there. The origins of this building really go back to the Middle Ages before the Renaissance, when Italian cities were competing to build larger and greater cathedrals than one another. It ended up taking 140 years to build this, and it involved some of the greatest artists in history. Florence was a wealthy city because of its textile trade, and they really thought high of themselves. So they decided that in order to compete with other Tuscan cities, they were going to build the grandest church in the area. The cathedral has works of great value, including the famous portrait of Dante by Michelino, and the Duomo has a feeling of rational order rather than the sense of mystery that a lot of other cathedrals like Notre Dame had, where the walls were surrounded by really complex structures. There was really an emphasis in this church on horizontal elements rather than vertical. Another difference between the Duomo and Gothic churches to the north was the size of windows. Here they were smaller, rather than churches in Paris, for example, where the desire was basically to replace the walls with sheets of glass. That clearly was not the goal here in Florence. They did not mind leaving a little bit of blank space on the walls. The architect hired for the job was named Arnolfo di Cambio. He also was the architect of the Church of Santa Croce, which is the burial place of some of the most famous Italians: Michelangelo, Galileo, Machiavelli, the composer Rossini, and the list goes on. He also designed the Palazzo Vecchio, which was the old town hall of Florence. The exterior is notable for its geometric pattern and its colors and the fact that it's made from encrusted marble. But the most mind-blowing part about this building is the enormous dome. The dome was so large that when it was built, its name came to be synonymous with the church itself, Il Duomo. Duomo meaning dome. When the church was designed, the builders actually didn't even know how they were going to cover the massive space, and it wasn't until Filippo Brunelleschi came up with a plan to build the dome. Here is a plan of the Florence Cathedral. Note the large area, which would later be covered by the dome. This dome was capable of withstanding lightning, earthquakes, and it's got a lot of years on it. Pretty magnificent. It's a diameter of 150 feet. When Brunelleschi proposed to build the dome, the people actually thought he was crazy. Nobody at the time thought it was possible, but after this, he was pretty much considered a genius. This is an example of relief, which was a term from the Latin verb relevo, which means to raise. This was basically to create a sculpture giving the impression that the sculpted material has been raised from above the background plane. And the outside of the building is basically covered in these. Giotto was the most famous Florentine painter of the 14th century. He designed this freestanding bell tower. It is one of the most noticeable things in town. We saw it from many different places. Sadly, by the time he died, only the lower part had been completed, but the upper sections were continued under the direction of Andrea Pisano and Francesco Talenti. So this cathedral was the largest church in Europe when it was completed, and now it is the third largest church in the world. It was dedicated to Santa Maria del Fiore, the Virgin of the Flower, which is an allusion to the lily, which is the symbol of the city in Florence. This symbol is everywhere throughout the city. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Italy, this building is a must-see. I thoroughly enjoyed being able to see it, and I hope you enjoyed listening, and thanks for listening. All right, bye guys.